Namaste students, welcome to your social science history class. Today we will continue with the fourth chapter, the opposition to British rule in Karnataka. In the last class we had studied about the Hyder Ali and Tipu Sultan, and also we had studied about the first Anglo-Mysore War and second Anglo-Mysore War. So in today's class we will move on to the third Anglo-Mysore War. The third Anglo-Mysore War, children, was fought between 1790 to 1792. Was a conflict in South India between the Kingdom of Mysore and the British East India Company. Kingdom of the Kingdom of Travancore. You can see here the Kingdom of Travancore, the Maratha Empire, the Maratha Empire, the Nizams of Hyderabad, and the Nizams of Hyderabad. It was the third of four Anglo-Mysore wars. Now let us move on to what was the background of this third Anglo-Mysore war, children. Tipu Sultan, the ruler of Kingdom of Mysore, and his father Hyder Ali before him had previously fought twice with the forces of the British East India Company. The first Anglo-Mysore War was fought in the 1760s and ended inconclusively from both the sides with the treaty provisions, including the promises of mutual assistance in future conflicts. British failure to support Mysore conflicts with the Maratha Empire and the other actions supportive of Mysore's enemy led Hyder Ali to develop a dislike for the British. Tipu has been a controversial figure and criticized for his repression of Hindus and Christians. Various independent sources describe the massacres of Christians and Hindus, imprisonment, forced conversion, and circumcision of Hindus and Christians, and the destruction of churches and temples, which are cited as evidence for his religious intolerance. The personal letters written by Tipu Sultan himself claimed that he was fighting a religious war, which was missing in the opposition parties of Marathas and British armies. But it might be just a political move, and allegations might be based on heresy evidences. After the British took the French controlled port of Mahe in 1779 CE, Hyder, who had been receiving the military supplies through that port and had placed it under his protection, opened the second Anglo-Mysore War. This war ended with the last British Indian treaty with an Indian ruler on equal footing. The 1784 Treaty of Mangalore, which restored the status quo ante bellum under the terms company officials such as Warren Hastings found extremely unfavorable for the British East India Company. Tipu, who gained control of Mysore after his father's death in December 1782, maintained an implacable hatred of the British and declared not long after signing the 1784 treaty that he intended to continue battle with them given the opportunity. He refused to free the British prisoners taken during the war, one of the conditions of the treaty. Tipu Sultan further strengthened his alliances with Ali Raj Bibi Junambe II, the Muslim ruler, and the Muslim Mapilla community of a region under the Zamorin of Calicut Empire, thus expanding the sultanates of Mysore's sphere of influence. The British general Charles II Charles II, Earl Cornwallis, became the Governor General of India and Commander in Chief for the East India Company in 1786 children. While he formally abrogated agreements with the Marathas and Hyderabad that violated the terms of the 1784 treaty, he sought informally to gain their support and that of Nizam of Hyderabad, or at least their neutrality in the event of conflict with Mysore. Now let us move on to the next topic, children. What were the events that leading to the war? In 1788, children, the company gained the control over the Sarkar of Guntur on the southernmost of the northern Sarkars, which the company had acquired under earlier agreements with the Nizams. In exchange, the company provided the Nizam with 2 battalions of company troops. Both of these acts placed British troops closer to Mysore, but also guaranteed the Nizam would support the British in event of conflict. The kingdom of Travancore had been a great target of Tipu for acquisition or conquest since the end of the previous war. Indirect attempts to take over the kingdom had failed in 1788, and the Archibald Campbell, the Madras president at that time, had warned Tipu that an attack on Travancore would be treated as a declaration of war on the company as per the Treaty of Mangalore. The Raja of Travancore also angered Tipu by extending the fortifications along the border with Cochin into territory claimed by Mysuru as belonging to its vassal state, and by purchasing from the Dutch East India Company 2 forts in the kingdom of Cochin, a state paying tribute to Tipu Sultan. In 1789, Tipu Sultan sent forces on to the Malabar coast to put down a rebellion. To put down a rebellion. Many people fled to Travancore, a state of independent of Mysore, and to Cochin, a state paying tribute to Tipu in the wake of his advance. To follow them, Tipu began in the fall of 1789 to build up troops at Coimbatore in preparation for assault on the Nedumkota, a fortified line of defense built by Dharmaraja of Travancore to protect his domain. Cornwallis, he was observing this build-up and retreated to Campbell's successor, John Holland, that an attack on Travancore could be considered a declaration of war and met with the strong British response. Tipu, was aware that Holland was not experienced military officer that Campbell was, and that he did not have a close relationship that Campbell and Cornwallis had, probably decided that this war was an opportune time to attack. Now we will move on to some of the next we will move on to the we will move on to the war. So the British army captured Karwar, Coimbatore, the Dindigul and other regions under the leadership of Meadows. Tipu Sultan, he entered into the region of Baramahal and captured Satyamangalam. Later on, he also captured Trichinapalli but failed in his attempt. Lord Cornwallis took up the leadership of the British Army, and this changed the course of war. The British Army captured Kolar and Hoskote and rushed towards Bengaluru under the leadership of Lord Cornwallis' children. The army captured Bangalore and destroyed the fort. After capturing Bangalore, Lord Cornwallis sought the help of Marathas and Nizam of Hyderabad to defeat Tipu Sultan. The war took another conclusive turn with the joining of Maratha and Hyderabad forces with the British. Marathas captured Savanur, Gajendragad, Lakshmeshwara, Hubballi and other places. The combined forces they came to Sri Rangapatna by capturing the fort after fort in 1792. The fort was destroyed during the night, and disturbed by these developments, Tipu Sultan tried to enter an agreement with the British. It was inevitable to Tipu Sultan. He signed the Treaty of Sri Rangapatna in 1792, which had unfavorable conditions. With this, the Third Anglo-Mysore War came to an end, and the British were successful in inserting the unfavorable conditions in order to make Tipu Sultan weak. He was forced to part with half of his kingdom, and he had to pay 3 crore rupees as a war damage fee and had to give 2 of his children as a guarantee against the payment. He was also forced to release the prisoners of war, and the British withdraw the combined army from Sri Rangapatna, children. So with this, we end up with the Third Anglo-Mysore War. Now we will move on to the Fourth Anglo-Mysore War. Now we will move on to the Fourth Anglo-Mysore War, which was fought in 1799. Let us move on to the background of the Fourth Anglo-Mysore War, children. The period of 1792 to 99 was used by both the British and Tipu Sultan to recoup their losses. Tipu fulfilled the terms of the Treaty of Sri Rangapatna and got his sons released. In 1796, when the Hindu ruler of the Wadayar dynasty died, Tipu declared himself as the Sultan and decided to avenge his humiliating defeat in the previous war. In 1798, Lord Wellesley, an imperialist to the court, succeeded Sir John Shore as the new Governor General. Tipu's growing friendship with the French concerns for Wellesley. Aimed at inhaling the Tipu's independent existence, he forced him into the submission through the system of Subsidiary Alliance. Tipu was accused of plotting against the British by sending the emissaries to Arabia, Afghanistan, and to the Isle of France, and Versailles with the treasonable intent. Tipu's explanation did not satisfy Welly, thus the Fourth Anglo-Mysore War began. Now I told about the Subsidiary Alliance. What do we mean by Subsidiary Alliance, children? In 1798, Lord Wellesley introduced the Subsidiary Alliance system in India, under which the ruler of the ailing Indian state was compelled to pay a subsidy for the maintenance of British army in returning for getting the British protection from the British against the enemies. It provided for the posting of a British resident at the ruler's court, restricting the ruler from employing any European in his service without the approval of the British. Secondly, sometimes the ruler ceded part for his territory instead of paying the annual subsidy. Thirdly, the first Indian ruler to sign the Subsidiary Alliance was the Nizam of Hyderabad. Those native princes or the rulers who would enter into the Subsidiary Alliance were not free to declare war against any other power or enter into negotiations without the consent of the British. The princes who were comparatively strong and powerful were permitted to retain their armies, but their armies were placed under the British generals. The Subsidiary Alliance was a policy of non-interference in the internal affairs of the allied state, but this was a promise seldom kept by the British. The payment of the arbitrarily fixed and artificially blotted subsidy invariably disturbed the economy of the state and impoverished its people. On the other hand, children, the British could now maintain a large army in the coast of Indian states. They controlled the defense and foreign relationships of the protected ally and had a powerful force stationed at the very heart of his lands. Now let us move on to the course of the war. The war began on April 17th, 1799 and it ended on May 4th, 1799 with the fall of Sri Rangapatna. Tipu was defeated first by the British General Sturt and then by General Harris. Arthur Wellesley, the brother of Lord Wellesley, also participated in the war. The Marathas and the Nizams again helped the British, as the Marathas had promised half of the territory of Tipu Sultan and the Nizam had already signed the Subsidiary Alliance. Tipu Sultan died in the war and all his treasuries were confiscated by the British. The British chose a boy from the earlier Hindu royal family of Mysore as the Maharaja and was imposed the Subsidiary Alliance system on him. It had taken the English 32 years to subjugate the Mysore. The threat of French revival in the Deccan was permanently eliminated. Now we will move on to the post-war scenario. Lord Wellesley offered Sonda and Harapanelli districts of Mysore kingdom to the Marathas, which the latter refused. The Nizam was given the districts of Gutti and the Gurumakonda. The British took the possession of Kannada, Coimbatore and Sri Rangapatna. The new state of Mysore was handed over to the old Hindu dynasties, that is the Vadiyas, under a minor ruler Krishnaraja III, who accepted the Subsidiary Alliance. So this region came to be known as Mysuru princely state. So with this we finish up with the 4th Anglo-Mysore War, children. Now we will move on to the Dondia War. Dondia Wagh was a military soldier, adventurer and plunderer in 18th century India. He started his career in the service of Hyder Ali, the ruler of Mysore. During the Third Anglo-Mysore War, he deserted the Ali's successor Tipu Sultan and subsequently raided the territories on the Maratha-Mysore border. After the Marathas forced him to retreat, he sought refuge from Tipu and converted to Islam, changing the name to Malik Jahan Khan. After Tipu's death in the 4th Anglo-Mysore War, he raised a force compromising the soldiers from the former Mysore army and took control of the northern part of Mysore kingdom. He styled himself as the king of two worlds, Ubhaya Lokadhishwara, that is the king of two worlds. The British East India Company as well as the Maratha Peshwa sent armies to check his rising power. He was ultimately defeated and killed by a British force led by Arthur Wellesley. Now let us move on to his early life, children, of Dondia Wagh. Dondia Wagh was born at the Channagiri in the kingdom of Mysore. Now it is present in the present day Karnataka. He belonged to a Maratha family of the Pawar clan. During the reign of Hyder Ali, he joined the Mysore army as a trooper under the command of Vishnu Pandit. Gradually, he rose to the position of a cavalry officer during the reign of Tipu Sultan. Due to the differences with Tipu Sultan, he was imprisoned. The British released him from the prison after the Fourth Anglo-Mysore War. He built a small army of himself and he started his operation. He organized the army. He had made an army, his own army, who were unhappy soldiers of Tipu Sultan's and the feudatory rulers who had lost their power. He captured Bidnur and Shumagga forts and made unsuccessful attempt to capture Chitradurga fort. Lord Wellesley also checked his rebellion. An attack was organized on Shumagga, Honnali, Harihara and the other places which was under the control of Dondia. Dondia lost his base. After the capture of Shikaripura, Dondia ran away towards Gutti, which was under the control of Nizam of Hyderabad. Under Nizam's army attacked Gutti, Dondia had to run to the regions of Maratha. The Marathas' army attacked him and captured the horses, camels and arms. In spite of these, he continued his warfare. Many unhappy Palegas encouraged Dondia Wag. The French at the Mahe of Malabar also extended their support to him. The British army followed him. The vast area that included Harihara, Chitradurga, Shikaripura, Savanuru, Ranebennuru, Kitturu and Londa. The British who took over the Shirahatti killed many followers of Dondia Wag. Now let us move on to the end of the Dondia Wag. Lord Wellesley decided to end the adventures of Dondia Wag. They requested the local rulers to help the British people. Dondia was recaptured. He was captured in Shikaripura fort and he was scattered by the British army. They tried to defeat the army of Dondia, which used to move in the area between the Tungabhadra and Malaprabha. They attacked him from all the directions. He was followed by them when he left Raichur. When he was caught in between the Maratha army and Nizam's army, the British attacked him near the Ellaparavi and killed him at Kongal. With the death of this leader, the followers of Dondia scattered. The British captured a large cache of arms and ammunition from him. So, I will stop the lesson here, children. In the next class, we will move on to the rebellion of Kitturu, brave Rani Queen Chennamma, Sangoli Rayanna, and we will move on to the Amara Sulya in the next class. Thank you, children.